Well, hello there, and welcome to our podcast. I'm Bill.
I'm Curtis.
We are father and son, and together we are your
Geekdumb
Prophets. Yeah, that's right. So if you're feeling geekdumb, feeling like you need some little education, like you don't know what's going on, we're here for you. Hopefully a little bit for you, and try to experience a little bit of the spiritual life of pop culture and comic books and games, and the importance of having that in your life. So, Curtis, how's it going?
It's going good. It's been a little crazy at my day job, but
Little
that's
regular
always
job.
fun stuff. Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
yes. But today's a special day, isn't it?
Oh, is it? Is it? What makes it special? What makes it special? Is it? Is it that?
I make it
it's
special.
you make it special. It's Father's Day. Oh,
Happy. Oh, what? No, you're supposed to say it. I can't say it.
happy Father's Day.
Happy Father's Day. Well, thanks, Curtis. Thank you so much. Appreciate it. Happy Father's Day to all those fathers out there. Woo woo. Grandfathers. All the like. Surrogate
All the
fathers.
surrogate
Father figures.
stepfathers, father figures.
Yeah, that's right. We thought that'd be a great topic to discuss today. This whole idea of father heroes or father figures in our lives. Yeah, so Curtis has had one really good one in his life, right? Oh, I'm sorry, I shouldn't be speaking for you.
Please don't.
Well, I can testify. I've had an incredible father figure in my life. Kurt, your grandfather is the bomb. He's awesome.
And his heart just will not give out. That thing still keeps pumping after all these years.
Right, that's right. Well, he's like the Grinch
After
at the
dealing
end
with
of the Grinch.
10 children, it's still
That's
going.
right. He's like the Grinch at the end of the movie, where his heart grows
just
three
gets
sizes that big.
That's
right.
That's worse.
It's worse. It's worse. Well, it's a great segue, like I said, of going into our father figures, and the whole idea of whether or not what is the pervading idea of father figures in our pop culture. Should it be more than what it is? Should it be a little less? Where's it at? But to begin with, I wanted to show off some of my previous Father's Day gifts. I don't know if you remember this. There it is. You don't even remember it. I think I bought it for myself. I think I did. So this was actually. Oh, I do remember. That's right. This was because Brooke was graduating, and we had to write up this whole storyline for her. For Brooke is my daughter, Curtis's sister, of explaining like all these. So I took all these movie quotes because we're a big movie family. So we took all these movie quotes and made an entire speech of just strictly movie quotes that she would know and understand. And then at the very end, and always remember. And I went, and I pulled open my shirt and I said, "I am your father." That was the end of it, and she screamed, "Woo!"
It was the
She loved it.
nerdiest thing ever, and it was probably
uber
the most
nerd.
epic speech that has ever been given at a commencement ceremony.
It was epic, wasn't it?
It was great.
It should be put into a movie.
And nobody can compare. Oh, definitely the other people that gave speeches at that commencement all sucked, to say the least. So maybe in hindsight, I look back at it, listening, like, yeah, it's not too epic. Thought it was better than it was, but whenever it comes to every other parent there that was giving speeches,
What do you mean not too epic? It was extremely epic. That was like a 4.5-minute speech of just movie quotes. That took me hours to write that thing.
It did take forever.
Yeah. If you gotta you have to understand how Brooke and I communicate. We communicate that way. Curtis and I are nerd talk. My daughter and I literally just quote movies to each other in TV shows of like, hey, how's it going, Royal Ugly Dudes? Whoa! All those types of things. Don't push me because I'm too close to the edge. You gotta name all those, Hey, thank you very much. I think I will have some cookies.
That one I know. That is One Crazy Summer.
One Crazy Summer. That one you got. John Cusack. Ding, ding, ding. Well, Curtis's point for the day.
That's whenever he's in the Hubcap Goldthwait. Wow, I can never say his name.
Goldthwait.
Yeah, that dude. He's running around in the summer
Godzilla
pool party in the giant Godzilla costume as he's stomping out the small model town that they built.
That's right. Oh,
God.
guy, because the old man throws the cigar into his mouth.
He
Oh,
starts
and
freaking
he's got
out.
smoke coming out of it. All right,
It's
and
great.
then I don't want you to cry in this one. But I bought this Father's Day gift for myself, but I do have one that you bought me.
He is the sentimental one, by the way.
I am the sentimental one. Don't forget it. You ready? Everybody grab your Kleenex. Grab your, Niagara Falls, Frankie Angel. Niagara Falls.
Scrooged.
Ooh, Scrooge. There you go. Look at this. This was an exclusive Father's Day 2-pack. Came with a Father's Day card and the best father-son pair that we know in cinema history, Anakin Skywalker.
I don't know if we'd call it the best pair, but it's one of the most dynamic relationships.
The most dynamic. Do you remember buying this for me?
I barely remember buying that,
Oh my
but
gosh, this was 2007. It is
oh man.
2023 right now.
Yeah,
It's
we're
a
going on
long time
15
ago.
years for that, aren't we?
Yeah, I sold and got rid of like almost all my action figures except autographed figures and this. That's how much it means to me. I've never opened it. Father's Day gift. How does that
Well,
make you feel?
he's never opened anything until recently, so
Shh. Don't tell him tell him my secrets. Okay.
I'll
Mm-hmm.
expose them all.
Yeah. Okay. Well, hey, what's new for you, Curtis? What's been going on?
Oh, it's been a crazy few weeks between work, it's a little vacation time, going back and forth from different locations for different facilities at my day job. So that's been a blast. And in between all of that time, I get around to somehow reading Warhammer books. So this is the one that I'm currently reading, and then I have several on audiobook that.
Turn it sideways.
Mm,
That's a big book.
it's actually a really really short book. The paper is just really thick.
Oh, That's here's the book I'm
That's what she
planning
said.
on reading. That's what she said. This is what I'm planning on reading. My brother Chris gave this to me. He said I have to read this because it's a national classic, and I've never actually read it. I've never read of it. Can you believe that? Slaughterhouse-Five, Kurt Vonnegut. I've never read any of his
Vonnegut.
stuff. Huh?
Kurt Vonnegut.
What did I say? Vonnegut?
Vonnegut.
Vonnegut. Yeah,
Come
gut.
on, you took some
I've never.
German.
Vonnegut. Vonnegut
Vonnegut.
is what it is then. So I'm actually kind of excited to look forward to reading this because I told Curtis as growing up, the quickest way you want to get to know somebody is not like just, hanging out. It's more than that. Ask them for their favorite book or their favorite movie and watch that. You will begin to understand their way of thinking, their humor, everything.
Oh, I just ask people what their favorite music is, and if it's a really
Oh, that's true.
boring list, I just walk away because I'm not interested.
Oh, you're a Swiftie? I'm out of here.
Hey, hey, if they like Taylor Swift and they can provide exact reasoning for why and all the details, maybe,
Okay, true,
maybe,
true. Can't diss it.
maybe.
Everybody's got their own understanding of the pop culture.
I don't
My
like
nephew.
her, but I like an explanation of why
Well,
you do.
you
If
know
it's just
your,
I like Taylor Swift, I'm like I got nothing
but
for you. I'm out.
you know your cousin went. You know your cousin went.
Which one?
Take a guess. Mickey. He was like first in
Oh,
line to
that's
get
right.
tickets. That's right. Yep. Mickey, we love you if you're watching this. He loves this. He's a Swiftie.
You know what we say about Taylor Swift if you listen to her.
He's a Swiftie, quicker, picker, upper, bounty. So hey, have you gotten anything new?
Anything
Did
new?
you? Yeah, did you buy anything new?
So outside of various Warhammer books and volumes of Conan, I did get a very, 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 very large statue that I
That's what she
can't
said.
show on screen.
Oh, you can't even show it?
Oh
It's
no,
too
because
big.
it's huge and it weighs about 50 pounds.
Oh my goodness, you can't even lift that thing. I get it. I
I,
get
I, I do a bunch of shoulder presses with it every morning, and it.
it. I was like, it's not that he can't show it on screen because it's rated R or rated X or anything.
No,
Just,
it's really
just,
big.
it's just really heavy. Curtis can't lift 50 pounds. It's too much. It's just too much. It's too much. This, that, all together, it's too
Me
much.
understanding what your gym habits are, you can't lift 50 pounds.
Oh, ouch, man.
Oh,
Watch me
oh.
lift this beverage. Mm-hmm.
Oh,
All right. Okay, so you know what I did? My latest thing is I haven't been getting a lot of things because I've been spending too much time. This was Curtis's birthday present he got me for this year. If you guys, if some of our viewers remember, actually, was it birthday? Christmas.
No, it's birthday.
This was birthday.
It was birthday.
I got to meet. This is like a true bucket list thing for
Oh
me
no,
to
that
do.
was a Christmas gift. Sorry.
The
Birthday gift was another item that you're gonna show off.
That's right. That's the other. I got to meet Striper. Bucket list. I got their autographs on this, the album, the latest one that Curtis got me, and the classic one, Stripers, Soldiers Under Command. Ready. The contrast. White album. What? Yeah, dude, it was freaking fantastic. I got to meet them. I was like giddy, like a schoolboy. Like, you guys are my heroes.
I did get
Well,
Switchfoot's new album on vinyl. I did.
Oh, that's right, you did. Yeah. Dude, I got a lot. I got Anakin Skywalker's on. Well, Matt
Lantern.
Yeah, got the Lantern's autograph and
you got the Clone Wars version of
Clone Wars version. So these are the voice characters for him, for Matt, and then James Arnold Taylor, who does Obi-Wan. Got both. Got to meet. Hello there. That's right.
You gotta tell that story.
Okay, I gotta tell you a story. Okay, for those guys listening, so I went to Comic-Con in Detroit, and so I was standing in line. As soon as the doors opened up, ran to go get in line to meet James Arnold Taylor, the voice for Obi-Wan Kenobi. So they got there a little late, as actors do, but they were busy. They were like coming in from another con from previously, so we get it. They're tired, so we were standing in line. So we were there probably 45 minutes, whatever, and then you hear. And people cheering from other areas. So you knew their celebrity came to their table so they could get their autographs. And you'd hear it over like a 45-minute period, just people going nuts. So we'd worked it out, or I had worked it out, let's put it that way, with the people that were in line with me. For those Star Wars fans who know, Obi-Wan's favorite line whenever he comes into is, hello there. So, and James Arnold Taylor does it all the time in the Clone Wars. It's fantastic. It's become like his regular thing. So when he stood up,
we call that a catchphrase.
His catchphrase is "Hello there." So which is why I say it at the beginning of our podcast, everyone, because Obi-Wan's my favorite character. Blah 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 blah. Right? Okay. So this is the Geekdumb part. Then moving on. So anyways, when he came in, had it worked out with there's like 40 of us standing in line waiting to get his autograph, and we all went. As soon as he sat down, put his books down, we all went, 2, 3, hello there. And he just looks up and he starts laughing. Loved it. He said that was the best response he's ever had from like participants coming through. So he literally said, can we do that again? And he got his phone out and recorded us. So
I am if he posted it on his Twitter page or not.
Oh, man, I'm not on Twitter. What you have to look it up because you are.
I can look it up.
You look it up. Twitter. Because if it is, I'm front and center. Or front and center. I'm right to his left, front on the left side.
You're off kilter.
I'm off kilter, saying hello there. I don't know. That was our claim to fame. Is I made his day. We made his day with it all. So no, man, we got so much going on. It's been so long. So what Curtis was talking about is my birthday present he got me, finally came in the mail, was the latest Star Wars Omnibus. I haven't even taken it out of the package yet. That new.
I'm pretty sure you still have several that you haven't taken out of the package yet.
No, I took a lot of the other ones out, actually. Opened them up because I wanted to smell the ink. For those who don't understand comics, you got to smell that fresh ink. Oh, it smells so good. Doesn't it?
Well, it's like cracking open a fresh book and smelling the new pages inside.
Yeah, or you cracking open a 20-ounce bottle of Mountain Dew and you hit it. It's that initial fresh flavor. You guys are all of our listeners. You're there with us, right? Oh yeah, I know what he's talking about. All right, so father figures. Last time we were able to discuss. We were talking about messianic personas and then the redemption arc. So obviously, one of the biggest redemption arc that we see historically in pop culture one of our favorite ones that we've talked about several times, obviously coming into play, was Luke and Anakin. Luke and Darth Vader. Whether or not is Darth Vader his father or is Anakin his father? Or are both of them the father? And again, we mentioned that about the redemption arc. Some people change their names. Anyways, going into that whole idea. Okay, so pop culture, Curtis. Think of some other iconic father figures, father heroes that we have in pop culture.
Ooh, big ones. Well, to start things off, I gotta go with King Theoden from Lord of the Rings.
Whoa, you went to the extreme.
I did go to the extreme because if we want to start with an extreme, we got to start with the ultimate, like kind of the ultimate king father with Theoden. Rides out with his men. His men follow him everywhere. He adores his children. He's disappointed that one of them, eventually may not come back because he has to send him off to war and then fight for him. But he inspires his daughter even to take up the sword and fight out with them. Like, the dude is awesome. And whenever I think of a father figure, I'm like, Theoden, like, dude, yeah, I'll follow him in a battle. He knows what he's doing. He embodies and encompasses this idea of what it means to be a leader among men, this father character that stands out not even just for his own family, but also fights for his country and his countrymen.
Wow. So it's me and King Theoden. That's what you're saying?
No.
Okay. All right. All right. Well, how about Daredevil? Daredevil and his father. There's a contrast there. The father that comes through the redemption arc, similar. That initially he's the one that was taking bribes, doing all these different things, but he was doing it all in the name of trying to help his son, raise his son, put his son through private school because he was blind and all these things. So to me, that the great father-son arc there, the reason why Daredevil does so much of what he does. I like that.
That. Well, if you want to go in that direction for what a father does for his sons, we can go with Marvel's first family with Mr. Fantastic.
Mr. Fantastic, Mr. Bombastic.
One of the only characters within the Marvel Universe that, continues to still be a superhero and a father because he does have 2 kids.
That's true, and without hiding his identity in doing so.
And without hiding his identity in doing so, and he does it anyways. And the one thing about Mr. Fantastic is that he does all of these extraordinary things. He goes out and saves multiverses. The one thing that he always inevitably comes back to is that, first and foremost, he does everything for his family.
Okay, that's good. We can't all jump across multi-universes and things, but we still be there for our family. Okay, so the one I like the most, outside of Star Wars, obviously, is going to be Superman. There you have a contrast of a father figure. You have Jor-El, his biological father, and Jonathan Kent, his adopted father, or his... Well, it's not even his stepdad. It'd be his adopted father, of just the contrast that these two have, because they seem to play polar opposites of what they try to make their son do or what they want their son to do, but they both played an important part in their role. Obviously you see that in comics in the comic books where sometimes Jor-El and Jonathan are like button heads, and other times they're like, okay, we're in agreement for the ultimate good of Clark, of Kal-El, of whatever you want to call him, just Superman, that we're going to agree on these things. We're going to put our differences aside. And I think that makes a big point of difference today, with our modern culture where we do have adopted fathers and stepfathers, and that it's not always the biological father that plays the most important role in a child's life.
Well, and taking that into, taking it across to his contemporary with Batman. Batman may not necessarily be a character that we immediately think of as being a father figure, but you do have to realize, Damian? Well, until you think of his biological son, which came many, many years later, but first and foremost, Bruce Wayne's first son is technically Dick Grayson, because he did adopt him after his parents were killed.
Oh, Dick Grayson is Robin, for those of you who don't know. The very first Robin. The first
and
Robin.
All subsequent Robins have usually played a role as being kind of the sons or the consciousness of what Batman wanted to like wanted his kids to be. He didn't want them to wallow
Mm,
within this
yep.
idea of depression and self-hate and loathing, and he wanted to give them an outlet for, actually addressing their fears and their concerns. With Dick Grayson, he let him become Robin. With Jason Todd, he found a rather lonely street rat that he decided he was going to make him another Robin. That one didn't really exactly go very well, but at the same time, you had Tim Drake come in, kind of give that reflection of what it meant to have a Batman and a Robin, and how ultimately Batman, being a more father type character, still needed more of the son type role to be able to mentor, because it also
Right.
helped to ground him in understanding of the ideas of what she was wanting to accomplish within Gotham City.
It gives them different aspects. I like that. It gives them a different perspective of his father role. Because for those, again, for those who don't know, Jason Todd, Dick Grayson, Tim Drake, all different Robins. A lot of you probably didn't even realize that there were different Robins. You just know it's Batman and Robin. It's more like Batman and Robins.
Well, and then if you really get into it, you can get to the most recent Robin being Damian Wayne, which is technically Batman's biological son, but it was
Right.
via Talia al Ghul, and
Oh,
she kept
cool.
him from Batman. So didn't even know that he existed and was raised amongst a bunch of assassins. So now you have two different moral points coming together about how they need to be going about solving crimes.
Again, like kind of like Jor-El and Jonathan, just
Yep.
giving them two different aspects of what kind of man he should be. Okay, so then you got I like, for those, if you've ever seen Kick-Ass with Hit Girl and Big Daddy.
That was an
Big
interesting
Daddy.
crime fighting duo.
Crime fighting duel, father and daughter. So it's not even just, obviously we're kind of looking at focusing on father and sons because that's what we are, father and son. But yeah, it doesn't. It's even the father relationship to a child. Period. So Hit Girl, awesome. She can kick some butt.
Well, if you go with, the father relationship with all of his children, go along with Wolverine, who has fathered and sired and surrogate fathered many a people within the Marvel universe. He has a
Ew.
biological son in Dakin, who he didn't again realize existed because Wolverine spent most of his comic career not remembering anything about his past. Then you
Yeah.
have X-23, who's technically his biological clone type daughter that he, again, didn't realize technically existed until she found him, and then had to realize that, I got a daughter now that I got to raise, that she hates me because she was created to hunt me down in the first place. And
But they
then you
brought
have
her into
his.
play in the movie
Yep,
Logan, right?
they did.
Yep.
And then the most famous relationship with Wolverine, and more of a surrogate role, actually comes with Kitty Pryde, to the point
It's
where
not his daughter.
it's surrogate role.
Oh, sir. Okay. All right. All
Yeah,
right.
no, this is very much Kitty Pryde looks up to Wolverine as a dad. Like between Kitty Pryde and Rogue, they both do, but
And
the big
Rogue. I
one
was gonna say
being
Rogue did too.
yeah, the big one being Kitty Pryde, because within the books, like they kind of play off of each other whenever they're in Japan and actually learning about samurai culture, and Kitty Pryde decides to go out on her own, thinks that she doesn't need any additional support, gets in trouble, and ultimately has to return to Wolverine for any assistance that she's needing in it. It's a very awesome. It's a great story. I love those
I like it.
particular tales of what was it, Shadow and Flame.
Oh well, and if you're getting into the whole idea of surrogate fathers, because again, we're talking about father figures, not necessarily biological. The biggest one that I can think of outside of that is going to be Spider-Man and Uncle Ben. Spider-Man's dad was dead, so Uncle Ben took over, and then they killed off Uncle Ben. And so then the rest of Spider-Man seems to be this
We get our
contest
we get our great quote. With great
with
power comes
great
great
power comes
responsibility.
great responsibility. That's from Spider-Man, for those who didn't know, from the get-go, that this was the this the biggest role that came into play of a surrogate father. That was one of the first initial ones outside of, well, I say that, but then you got Superman, you got Batman, all these different things came into play. So you can see the importance of father and son or father and
And
child relationship is always
we
important.
can say though that Uncle Ben has been more consistent than any other one whenever it comes to a surrogate role across
Well,
continuity.
which is interesting, more consistent, but he was killed right at the very beginning of Spider-Man's career as Spider-Man. But he constantly refers back to stories of what Uncle Ben did in helping raise him, and when his father passed away, that so there's all these things that he constantly flashes back to, even though we don't see those stories. We just
Mm-hmm.
see Spider-Man who he is today, in contrast to what he used to be. If Uncle Ben, if hadn't died, would Spider-Man be who he is today?
Oh no,
You know, would
no.
Superman be who he is today if Jonathan Kent hadn't taken over as his adoptee father? No, he'd be totally different. So the father heroes, so this contrast of should father and son stories, we've mentioned quite a few of them here today. I want you guys to write down in a comment, those listeners that are listening, just write in the comments, what is your favorite father son or father daughter father child father figure relationship in pop culture, in comic books? Write it down in there. Who is your favorite? Just interesting to see. And should father and son stories be more prevalent in the relationships that we see that are built?
Well, my general answer is yes, but if we go back to Spider-Man, Marvel doesn't kind of seem to think so, considering one of their biggest decisions that they decided to make was make Peter Parker a bachelor again and not a father like they had initially intended to do during J. Michael Straczynski's run in the early 2000s, where
When he
ultimately,
married,
so he had married Mary Jane back in the 80s, late 80s, or late 80s, early 90s. It was right after the black costume saga of the character, and for the longest time it was like them going through what it means to be in a relationship, and Spider-Man still being Spider-Man. They go through their ups and their downs, they split up, they don't know if they're going to get divorced because of all these other issues, and ultimately during JMS's run, he
mm-hmm,
decides to keep them together, that yes, this is the struggle that they have to endure, and in the process he's like, well, if this is the next struggle that they've agreed to, we kind of have to move forward with, well, there's going to be a kid at some point within this
right?
relationship.
Yep.
So it is told that Mary Jane does get pregnant, is expecting a child, and they ultimately sacrifice said child to the literal devil of the Marvel universe to bring back Aunt May.
So get rid of the father-child relationship, because
Yeah,
it's too rocky of a storyline to bring across.
yeah,
We want him to be
yeah.
like, oh, we gotta be evil or good, doing all these things
Well,
for
we
your
can
own
definitely
reason.
tell that most Marvel fans at the time didn't agree because Spider-Man sales plummeted.
Yeah, big time at that point. And
Big time.
Spider-Man is one of, again, listeners knowing, Spider-Man is one of the biggest, if not still the biggest, comic book sales. Next to, was
It's
it
usually always in the top
Batman?
10. Like the
Yeah, it's always
biggest
in the
ones that
top
you can
10.
always rate off of were Uncanny X-Men, Batman, and Spider-Man. So they were kind of,
The
the
top
blood of the
three.
industry. If you knew that those books were doing well, the industry itself was doing good. Now none of those books sell over 50,000 copies a month.
Yeah, and they used to sell
Millions.
in the millions. That gives you an idea of what pop culture in the industry, how it's starting to dwindle, go down, but it's getting more precise. I think some of the stuff's, well, that's when you're starting to see
It's
more of
garbage.
ISOM. Yeah, that's when you're starting to see ISOM and you're seeing Rippaverse, those things that are going outside of common pop culture, making its own Berserker. Keanu Reeves sold the largest amount, like 600,000 copies of issue number one, like within
It
weeks.
wasn't quite that much, but yeah, it
It
was
was
over. It was
it
over
was a lot.
100K.
Yeah, and it was the most any comic had sold in years. And here he comes. He's not even with, any mainstream things. He's all on his own. Yes, the Keanu Reeves from John Wick, Bill and Ted's, all that stuff. So,
The Matrix.
the Matrix. So, what defines them as a hero? So, a hero is defined in a person who is admired or idealized for courage, outstanding achievements, or noble qualities. I like that. Admired or idealized for courage, outstanding achievements, or noble qualities. That's the definition of hero. Now place that into a father figure becoming somebody's hero or someone's ideal of those noble qualities of outstanding achievements, someone that they would like to mirror or reflect or become like that person. So imagine if everybody had some father figure in their life that could apply these types of noble qualities or achievements so much into a child's life that the child would want to mirror and reflect that. So one of the examples that I'd like to talk about today that Curtis and I are going to kind of focus on a little bit in this next 20 minutes or so is talking about one of the biggest cinema characters out there is a man by the name of Henry Walton Jones Jr.
Or as everybody well knows him as, Indiana Jones.
Indiana Jones, that's right. The new movie's coming out in a couple weeks. Dial of Destiny. I love Indiana Jones. Freaking love Indiana Jones. Gotta understand
I'll
that.
stick with those first 3 films. Thank
I
you.
know. I'll stick with the first 3.
Maybe Kingdom of the Crystal Skulls if I want a good laugh at the stupidity of some things. But
yeah. So we're gonna stick to the whole idea of the iconic role of Indiana Jones and the relationship that he's had. So these movies came out in 81, 84, 89, 2008, and now 2023. So you can see Indiana Jones is like this prevailing character that's been around for 20 or 30, going on 32 years now. So even in George Lucas's mind, you're talking 2 or 3 years before that. So, he wanted to use Harrison Ford was just phenomenal as Han Solo. So he's like, oh,
he didn't even initially want to utilize Harrison Ford. Trivia question for you.
Oh, who did he want to use?
Oh, who did he want to use? Why can I not remember his name?
I'm gonna have to look it up. Write it down. Anyone know? Anyone to put it in?
I know it wasn't Christopher Walken.
That's right, Walken. We named the dog Indiana. So, did you know that what the original title of Indiana Jones was supposed to be?
I don't know, something super long and in relation to the original serials.
If you think of it like George Lucas was like, he wrote Indiana Jones, so he did the whole Star Wars, The Adventures of Luke Skywalker. So he was real original with his titles. So he came up with The Adventures of Indiana Smith. Something as common name as Smith. So when he got it to Spielberg was like, yeah, I think we can help out. We can work with this. He changed it to actually Jones. So that came out. I like Indiana Jones kind of rules.
The Adventures of Indiana Smith makes sense whenever you think about the type of serials that he's trying to retell from the 1930s, the stuff that he grew up with. Which they had cheesy names like that for all of those old serials from the 30s and 40s. They're great. Don't get me wrong. I love them, but then you read the titles today and you're like, this is so very unoriginal, but I guess it works.
Okay, well, since we're going to be talking about Indiana Jones, we got to do a little bit just to kind of bring our viewers back into getting excited, whether you're going to go see the movie, the new one, or not. Or not, strongly encourage. Okay, so who's there's a couple of different lines. If you really think about it, who's my favorite? You very funny, Dr. Jones. I love him. Short Round is fantastic.
I love Short Round.
Did you see the pictures that he finally got taken pictures with?
I did.
Harrison Ford after he did.
That was at the Oscars.
Yeah, anything, anywhere.
Everything, everywhere, all at once.
All at once.
Because he did win Best Supporting Actor for that role.
That was fantastic. It was fantastic. I loved it. Okay,
and
so
maybe that and then Everything Everywhere All at Once winning Best Picture are probably the only honest awards that were actually given at this year's Oscars. But I'm a little biased to that film.
That's true. But did you know what's the name of the bar that Indiana Jones is in at the beginning of Temple of Doom? I'm sure you did.
Club Obi-Wan.
Club Obi-Wan. That's right. George Lucas got a little bit of Star Wars in there. So, maybe Indiana Jones and Star Wars are actually in the same timeline, because Star Wars is actually a long time ago in a galaxy far, far away. So,
with that logic, I could put BattleTech and Warhammer in the same universe, and that doesn't
well,
exactly work. So let's move on to the next trivia question here.
all right.
Wishful
Well,
thinking.
well, which one did you get to see young Indiana Jones in?
That would be The Last Crusade, because it's at the
The Last
beginning, played
Crusade.
played by River Phoenix.
That's where it shows where he got his
His scar
scar from showing the whip with the lion
and his fear of snakes.
and his fear of snakes. Oh my gosh, that's what Chris and I were talking about. What's your favorite Indiana Jones movie?
Mine's still Raiders of the Lost Ark.
Oh yeah, see, mine used to be Raiders, but I have a deathly fear of snakes, like awful fear of snakes, and so I literally have to do this like through most of that movie, well the main scenes there when they're trying to get out. But
Asps.
as I'm getting older, I really gotta say I'm really starting to appreciate and love more Last Crusade. It's just the father-son relationship, all that. The sentimental one here.
And it's Sean Connery.
And
Which
it's Sean Connery.
I can't do it. I'm not even gonna fake it. So yeah,
I'm
just gonna
Sean
leave
Connery.
it there. But
This is my
where
Scottish accent. This is my
where
Russian accent.
Would you let me talk here and give you my trivia question?
Oh, you got trivia?
I do
Hit me.
have a trivia question
Hit me
about this
with your
particular
best
film.
shot.
Do you remember what the biggest criticism for Last Crusade was from the critics back in 1989, whenever the movie came out?
Sean Connery's accent.
Nope.
What? I don't even know.
Sean Connery was too much of a beta male. They expected him to play more of his James Bond persona and not the archaeologist that they got in the film.
Really? They wanted him more
Yep,
like a
they said that he
suave-
was way too calm and docile for the movie.
Really?
Yep.
I thought it was going to be the fact that Indiana Jones or Harrison Ford and Sean Connery actually, like 4 years apart, 5 years apart.
That was another criticism, but the biggest one being actually that Sean Connery, that what they expected from his particular role was again more in line with his James Bond performances, not so much the professor type that we got, which I think, and because I didn't grow up with that and understanding what that criticism was, the role makes it complete and utter sense to me,
way
as
he
an
played it.
archaeologist.
Yeah, the way he played it, I thought was much better, much smoother. Okay, and then of course, what two weapons did he carry with him at all times?
His whip and his gun.
It's whip. Whip it good. Just whip it. Well,
And that's the
I
reason
liked.
why we get that famous scene in Raiders of the Lost Ark with the dude doing all the sword play, and Indiana Harrison Ford is actually just tired of it for the day, and so he just took the gun and fired.
Yeah, I love it.
And they decided
it.
to keep the cut.
It's a great classic scene. Those are some of the best scenes in movies. Are the ones that, like, they became like joke things and little side things, and then they keep them into the cut. It's like
With Stormtrooper
that's
hitting
one of
its
them.
helmet, entering in the
the Stormtrooper
closet
hitting his
room.
helmet.
Yeah.
Princess Bride, Carrie Elwes getting bonked on the head, and he falls and crumbles to the ground.
Because he was actually hit too hard.
He was actually hit too hard and knocked out. He woke up in the hospital. He said that that's because they was it Chris Columbus that ran that thing, or I can't remember who was the director. It was yeah. So he kept saying no, redo it. It wasn't real enough. So this contrast that I love of the Indiana Jones talking about the father, and I love the contrast that they show with Indiana with his father Henry Jones Sr. And then they come out later on to what again originally they were going to do a movie with Harrison Ford's daughter was going to come into play, or Indiana Jones's daughter. Man, its names are interchangeable. Indiana Jones's daughter was going to come into play
It's
as a
iconic.
13-year-old girl, but then Spielberg came in and said, "Nope, it's going to look too much like the Lost World, Jurassic Park and the Lost World." So he said, "No, we need to change it to a boy." So then introducing Mutt Williams, aka Mutt Williams' full name.
Henry.
It's not that hard.
Henry Jones.
Henry Jones the third.
Third.
That's right. 1, 2, 3. So I liked this whole idea of the legacy carrying on. I thought that was cool. To me, that was really cool. The one of the few aspects of the
Kingdom of
kingdom,
the Crystal Skull.
the kingdom of the crystal skull that kind of carried through that I liked because hey, I'm coming as speaking as a grandfather, watching my legacy grow up with my two granddaughters. Just beautiful. So, in taking a look at this contrast, what I like about this is you look at it is do we getting philosophical here for you people. Do we turn out like our fathers despite how hard we try not to be like them? I mean, if you look at Indiana Jones and his father, the relationship was indifferent due to conflicts on their approaches to their situations, even though they shared so much in common. They shared the love for archaeology. They were both teachers. They both even shared the same women. That they had so much in common. So is that what caused so much of a wedge that they're butting heads too much? Or, other people you see the commonality is what draws them close together. And so they have a more of a bonding and stronger relationship. Or like I said, is it how they react to the situation itself? Not necessarily who they are, how they are. That's, I think of it like, there's times in our lives where you and I have butt heads because
we butt heads because we're way too similar. We're
way
too similar. We are way too similar in personality, but we are very, very different in our approaches.
Right. But then that's what makes this the podcast so much fun is the similarities in the personalities. How the approaches are is what makes it even, again, the aspect of it. We could have looked at this in a negative sense because we look at it from a different perspective, but it does add to it.
It's Clash of the Titans.
Clash of the Titans. So that makes me the Titan and you the son of a Titan. Son of a preacher man.
You know what we call those? Gods.
Oh, the Titans are the gods? Easy. Watch out for the lightning strike. Scratch that. We're not the Titans. I'm not a... So we're going to look at this a little different today, Curtis. We're going to go... I want to bring up, obviously, some biblical scripture and some things that we can talk about here. So I'm going to bring up some scripture, and I want to talk about those from my aspect as far as being a father. Because we have a great example here. And then some of these we'll bring up and try to get your aspects of what these scriptures might mean as a son. So, to start, Proverbs 22:6 says, train up a child in the way he should go, even when he is old, he will not depart from it. Because now when I say father, that can immediately trigger so many different connotations or thoughts or specifically even feelings for some of our listeners. Some may, they think of father and they go, oh yeah, man, I had some great experiences of just, they helped raise me. They did these great things in my life. They played catch with me every day, whatever it may be. Or, I've also seen the examples, unfortunately, in my life of where you've talked to some people who have such negative feelings about and their understanding of who a father is because, dad would come in and, the relationship was broken between mom and dad would come in and steal, to the kids' mind, steal some of their stuff overnight. And then he'd go over to grandpa's house and he's like, why, making sure that the doors are locked because, why dad come and steal all of our stuff? So there's that contrast, unfortunately, when you're talking to people. And yes, I kind of went a little dark there. Once you see the difference that so many people have of a father figure is not always healthy to them. So when I say father, for me, it's extremely healthy because I love and honor and respect my father greatly. And, Curtis will speak up for himself whether or not he does for me. But there's things that I disagree.
Jury's still out on that, but,
Jury's still out, that's right, not done yet. There's things that I agree with my father on a lot, but there's also some things I disagree. But that's where the greatness comes to me is he allowed me to become the man who I am, despite who I am. Let's put it that way. So this whole idea of training up a child in the way it should go, some people immediately get the negative feelings of they have negative feelings about God and the church because they had a parent that was so strict and they would use this verse as they're beating their kid and saying, "Oh, all in the name of God, I'm gonna train up this child. Spare not the rod." Rah, rah, rah. And it's like they take these two verses completely out of context. Whereas, what about Ephesians 6:4 that says, "Fathers, do not provoke your children to anger." Don't provoke your children to anger, but bring them up in the discipline and instruction of the Lord. I think of a great example, if you remember, Curtis, when your sister, man, we brought a lot of stories about Brooke here.
Brooke is a little spitfire,
Little spit,
so she's usually the one that had like
redheaded
conflict.
spitfire.
Yeah, redheaded
Yeah,
spitfire. So she's usually the one that like would always stand up for herself.
yeah.
I'd stand up for myself as well. Just my way of standing up for myself wasn't really exactly speaking up. It was more, I'm gonna manipulate the entire class to go against you. So
Wow. Whereas Brooke, she was not afraid to stand up, and this kid was getting disciplined for something, and Brooke stood up to protect the kid, and the kid was getting upset, and they quoted
no, no,
some
no.
verse
It had a lot to do with current relations with this friend had a rather strained and tenuous relationship with their parents.
with their
And
parents.
so
That's right.
Brooke was providing some counseling. Teacher at her private school heard
Overheard the
said counseling and then proceeded to quote, "Children, obey your parents in the Lord, for this is right. Honor your father and mother, that it may go well with you and that you may live long in the land," which is Ephesians 1-3. But if you don't have the
previous
follow-up
verses.
verse, if you don't have the follow-up verse, which is, "Fathers, do not provoke your children to anger, but bring them up in the discipline and instruction of the Lord," this does indicate, well, from a biblical passage and perspective, is that there is a duality between the relationship between fathers and their children, or parents and their children, and how children should grow up to respect and love and rely upon the nurture of their parents, while parents, on the other hand, need to raise their children in a, meaningful way for society. And if they're not, it's kind of at your fault now for, disciplining your children in an overly harsh manner that makes them into little hellions.
Yeah, when I talk to these people that just have like such a negative connotation of the church and God and everything else, and I think, dear God, what did your parents do to you? Because again, and in their defense, they were probably thinking, "Oh, I'm quoting these verses, I'm living according to what the word says," but they forget, as Curtis even brought out, that which is, I love the contrast here, father and son. I focused on the one verse of, I don't want to provoke my children to wrath or provoke them to anger, but nor at the same time am I going to sit back and just let them rule the roost, because who's still in charge? Who still is supposed to be that father figure that says, okay, despite whether or not you disagree with me or whether you like me in this situation, my job here is to protect you and to honor you and to make sure that you are taught correctly and taught these right things and, protected.
Your job and your role is to be a father, and sometimes
Be a
being a
father.
father means you gotta lay down some harsh truths that your children are not going to appreciate.
That's right. Hey,
Let's face it. Us children, whenever we're young and even into our adult years, we're really stupid.
well, yeah. I mean, let's go to the extreme. Hey, everybody else is jumping off the cliff. I guess I'll go do it too. No, no, don't be dumb and naive. Oh, just because everybody else is doing this, it goes back to classic one-on-one peer pressure. Just whatever. We can go off on a sermon and tantamount on this.
That's a different tangent.
Yeah, the tangent of this crazy, messed up world that we live in, and that parents are literally going to jail because they won't allow their children to do things that the children think that they should do. I'm like, no, it's the parents' rights. It's the parents.
Children are stupid.
Children are stupid.
Let's just get that out of the way and move on to our next topic,
Yeah,
because we're stupid, and we're stupid well after we're 18 too.
well, because your brains are still functioning. They're not functioning fully until your 20s, mid-20s, before it's fully developed. And so that entails emotion.
Not even a guy's. Ours doesn't fully function and form until we're like in our 30s and we failed and we've
Okay,
broken things
specifically
a
a
lot.
guy's.
And then our
Okay,
brain goes,
contrast
"Oh
between a
yeah,
woman-
things actually work this way."
Oh, is that how it is? Yeah, so there's a difference there when you're raising. So that's what it's your job as a parent, and my job as a father to making sure that I train up a child in the way they should go. That when they are old, they will not depart from it. So, like I said, sometimes Curtis does stupid things that I go, "Psh, whatever. It's not the way. That's not the way I taught you. But ultimately, as a father, I need to release it and pray and hope that he's going to come back to it. And I'm trying to think if there's any example I can think of that you like. Okay, well there we go. I think we've talked about this with even I taught you how to drive a car. Spent all this time teaching him how to drive a car. He refused to get his driver's license, and I was like, whatever. I wash my hands of this. I'm like, you know what? You're 16. Get your driver's license. Because now I see these idiot lazy
Hey.
children that.
What was the thing that it took you a little bit before it finally clicked that you had to tell me to do, and you're like, oh
That's right.
yeah, I can have him do that, and he'll
So
finally get his license.
Wednesdays at the time was a pastor, so Wednesdays were very busy. But Wednesdays are also for all of us nerds we know as comic book day.
Comic book day. It is
That's when the
Wednesday, my
comics come.
dudes.
That's right.
Oh,
So Curtis gets off out of school, and the first thing he wants to do is, Dad, take me to the comic shop. Take me to the comic shop.
which was
And
20
I'm like,
minutes away.
dude, yeah, 20 minutes away, and I still got to get ready for church that night and things. And I'm like, dude, you know what? If you got your driver's license, you could go to the comic book shop anytime you wanted. He had his license within 2 weeks. Boom.
1 week.
Was it 1 week?
Week.
Yeah, yeah. He was ready. So that's where you just go, okay, train up a child the way it should go. That's a minute example. But one of the biggest examples that we can see that we've talked about with this whole idea of legacy of the father and son, we've mentioned this story before, is the prodigal son. If you look at the prodigal son, he was raised a certain way. Both children were raised a certain way. And he chose to walk away, do all these things. But then in his wallow and his miseries, he's eating the pig slop and sleeping with the pigs. He remembered his father. He remembered the things his father taught him, remembered the things that his father had shown him. And, did he remember his father had some money? Yeah. But he remembered the love that his father had that would take care of him. So he went back. So there is that parabolic reaction that we like to talk about here. Is we've mentioned before with the prodigal son. Who are you in the story? Are you the father? Are you the prodigal son? Or are you the son that gets all nitpicky about it?
Well, and if you look at the actual arc of, say, the typical hero's arc, the returning to the father is actually a critical portion of that particular type of tale. You can look at a story
Mm-hmm.
like Pinocchio. With the story of Pinocchio, what the culmination of that story is that he decides that he's done living on the island where he's having to deal with
Pleasure
kids
and sin for the season.
being turned into asses.
Yeah.
So he decides to flee, leave, and he decides to seek out his father again. And in the midst of seeking out the role of his father, he then has to go back and save him, understanding what he currently knows about the world. Within the hero arc, we can actually compare this directly to Spider-Man. With the very first arc, and going right back to that quote that I made earlier of, with great power comes great responsibility,
Yeah.
this is told a dozen times. It's in every iteration of the character. Everybody knows the story where
Who told him that's the story?
He goes to wrestle against his Uncle Ben's wishes. Wrestles, goes to get his money. Dude won't pay up, so he leaves. Robber comes in, steals the bookie's money, runs off, passes Spider-Man. Spider-Man knows exactly what happened and did nothing. And because of that, the consequence was the death of Uncle Ben. And at that point, Spider-Man, even though Uncle Ben was no longer present, returned to the words that he last spoke with Uncle Ben, which was, with great power comes great responsibility. From there, yes, he had to deal with the death of his uncle that he loved and adored, but he did take from that the consequence and understanding of what it meant to have powers and the ability to help people with them.
That was beautiful, Curtis. That was a great example of this whole bringing it in the summary of here for the parabolic reaction of how does this apply to you? You know, the father and children is a great storyline that we see in comic books, and I think we need to see it more. You know, now they're trying to get more and more away. You know, they destroyed Willow. Willow had a sucky dad. Ben Skywalker, Ben Solo had a sucky dad, and Han Solo all of a sudden he's like, oh, I was a terrible. They're trying to basically destroy fatherhood instead of showing you the great example that fatherhood can be for a child's life. Because you know what, I get it. Some people had really bad experiences with a father, but regardless, you know, regardless whether you're one of the children, a father or daughter that had a terrible experience with your father, could that be that potential contrast of coming back? You know, I just finished watching that movie, Hot Flamingo. Great movie, talking about not Hot Flamingo, Flamin' Hot. I keep calling it Hot Flamingo. That's a John Cusack movie. Flamin' Hot was the story of the guy who came up with the chili sauce that they put on top of the spicy Cheetos, the Flamin' Hot Cheetos. An incredible story about that. Yeah, his dad beat him when he was a kid. But there's this contrast where his dad comes to change his ways. He comes to know the Lord, specifically in this one. But there was a change of ways, and the father constantly trying to reach out to him. And he's like, no, this is what you did my whole life. And it's hard for me to forgive you, hard for me to accept that. So I understand that some of you have that harshness. But there's a difference there, as Curtis pointed out to me, with, are you that father that's willing to be there with those open arms when a son comes back? You know, and we say, oh, that's great if you're the father. But in contrast, can you also be that son that comes and has open arms if your father comes back to you and asks for forgiveness? So a little flip on the whole prodigal son story of, yeah, we can say, oh, that's great. The dad's was there. He was a great story. He was a great part of his person's life. And then he came back scared whether or not his father would accept him. He ran, he hugged him and kissed him on his neck and he said, welcome, you know, kill the fatted calf, bring the goat, the coat of many colors, put him on him. But I want to encourage you as sons, would you be that same acceptance for fathers like me? Because I've made mistakes. Curtis knows I've made mistakes. But he loves me still. I love him. He's made mistakes. He's still young, so obviously he hasn't made as great as mistakes as I have. I'm sure he's got plenty of life in him. He'll make some. He'll make more.
They're still coming.
They're still coming one after each other. So remember that for this, as we relate this thing to these stories to our own life. You know, the father and son relationship, the father-child relationship, whether you're the biological father, whether you're adopted father, whether you're a stepfather, whether you're uncle, whether you're the father figure, you're a foster parent, whoever you may be, you play an important role in that child's life. Period. They need that in their lives. They need the contrast. They need someone to be able to say, hey, stop it. Change, divert, move to a different direction. Convict. But they also need, that's right. But they also need that one that says, hey, come here. Let me hug you. Let me take care of you. So thanks guys for listening today on this beautiful Father's Day. I love Curtis. I love talking to you. This is great. Always a pleasure.
Sure, he's still out on that.
Oh, there it is. I knew it. We had to wait for something. All right, well, guys, thanks for listening today, and tune in next time. Hopefully, we'll be doing this within the next month here, about 5 weeks out. But if you haven't had a chance, go back and listen to some our other podcasts. They are fantastic. They're awesome. And just remember, perspective is your prison or your passport. Have a good one, guys.
Peace.
Say goodbye there. We got to come up with that one. Hello there. Bye there. Bye now. Okay then. Okay then.